Good afternoon. This is All India Radio. I am Valsa Williams and with me is Abhishek Mukhopadhyay with the Midday News. The headlines. Election Commission to announce poll dates for West Bengal, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Assam and Puducherry Assembly elections at 4:30 p.m. today. Prime Minister says farmers, processing units, MSMEs and startups will be the real drivers of Atmanirbhar Bharat. Preparations underway for next phase of COVID-19 vaccination for citizens over 60 years of age and those below 45 years of age with comorbidities. Prime Minister lauds the role of medical fraternity in fighting the COVID-19 pandemic, says India has provided a helping hand to the global community. Brazil to purchase 20 million doses of Bharat Biotech Covaxin. RBI Governor Shaktikant Das projects a growth rate of 10.5% for the next financial year. Second anniversary of Bala air strikes today. Defence Minister says it is a reflection of India's strong will to act against terrorism. Second edition of Khelo India Winter Games inaugurated in Gulmarg virtually by Prime Minister says sports will not only be an extracurricular activity but a part of the curriculum now. And in cricket, India's victory over England in Ahmedabad Test sets up a debate over the role of turning tracks. As the nation fights the COVID-19 pandemic, we begin with a message of precaution to stay safe and protected by following these three simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki doori for social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene. And now the news in detail. The Election Commission will announce the schedule for assembly elections to be held in West Bengal, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Assam and Puducherry at 4:30 p.m. today. The states are due for elections in April-May this year. Polls will be held for 294 seats in West Bengal, 234 seats in Tamil Nadu, 140 seats in Kerala, 126 seats in Assam and 30 seats in the Union Territory of Puducherry. More from our correspondent.
During COVID, polls will be held for the second time after the Bihar elections. Polls will be held for 294 seats in West Bengal, 234 seats in Tamil Nadu, 140 seats in Kerala, 126 seats in Assam and 30 seats in the Union Territory of Puducherry. All eyes will be on West Bengal, where TMC and BJP are in high-pitched campaign mode. BJP, which has been making huge inroads into the state, has inducted several Trinamool Congress leaders to its state unit to dislodge Mamata Banerjee. Anand Chaturvedi, AIR News, Delhi.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said that farmers, processing units, MSMEs and startups will be the real drivers of an Atmanirbhar Bharat. Addressing a webinar on implementation of budget in financial services sector, Mr. Modi said the government's vision regarding financial sector is very clear. He said trust, transparency and faith are the cornerstones of the financial sector.
सरकार इस बात को मानती है कि हर बिजनेस सफल हो और जैसा चाहे वैसा ही परिणाम दे, ये संभव नहीं है। ऐसे में सही नियत के साथ लिए गए फैसलों के साथ खड़े होना सरकार का दायित्व है और ये हम कर रहे हैं और आगे भी करते रहेंगे। और मैं फाइनेंशियल सेक्टर के सब लोगों को कहना चाहता हूं, सही नियत से, सही इरादे से किए गए काम आपके साथ खड़ा रहने के लिए मैं हमेशा तैयार हूं.
Mr. Modi asserted that under the NDA government, banking and non-banking sector has undergone sea changes, making it much more transparent and reliable.
देश के फाइनेंशियल सेक्टर को लेकर सरकार का विजन बिल्कुल साफ है. देश में कोई भी डिपॉजिटर हो या कोई भी इन्वेस्टर, दोनों ही ट्रस्ट और ट्रांसपेरेंसी अनुभव करें, ये हमारी सर्वोच्च प्राथमिकता है. बैंकिंग और नॉन बैंकिंग सेक्टर के पुराने तौर तरीकों और पुरानी व्यवस्थाओं को स्वाभाविक से बहुत बड़ा बदलाव आ रहा है और बदलना हम लोगों के लिए भी अनिवार्य हो चुका है. 10-12 साल पहले एग्रेसिव लैंडिंग के नाम पर कैसे देश के बैंकिंग सेक्टर को, फाइनेंशियल सेक्टर को नुकसान पहुंचाया गया, ये आप अच्छी तरह जानते हैं. नॉन ट्रांसपेरेंट क्रेडिट कल्चर से देश को बाहर निकालने के लिए एक के बाद एक कदम उठाए गए. आज एनपीएस को कारपेट के नीचे दबाने के बजाय उसे यहां वहां दिखाकर बचने के बजाय एक दिन का एनपीए भी रिपोर्ट करना जरूरी कर दिया है.
The Prime Minister also underscored the importance of continued and robust participation of public sector units in the banking and insurance sector in order to ensure universal financial inclusion. Emphasizing on the key reforms introduced by the government in the financial sector, he said that Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code has installed faith in the lenders. He said the leakage-free delivery system, merger of small banks, and provision for asset restructuring bodies and development financial institutions will ensure a robust, vibrant and transparent financial sector in the country. Mr. Modi said the usage of technology has helped the country in achieving unprecedented growth in financial inclusion. He said the country has accomplished the feat of rolling out Aadhaar cards for nearly 130 crore countrymen, in addition to opening of Jan Dhan accounts for 41 crore beneficiaries. The Prime Minister said with the existing pace of growth, the fintech sector in the country is expected to reach the mark of $6 trillion in the next 3 years. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman and Minister of State for Finance Anurag Thakur also participated in the webinar.
Preparations are underway for the next session of COVID-19 vaccination for citizens over 60 years of age and those below 45 years of age with comorbidities. In view of this, ongoing sessions of vaccination will not take place on Saturday and Sunday in wake of the IT system transition from CoWIN 1.0 to CoWIN 2.0. The COVID vaccination was launched on 16th of January this year by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Health Ministry said the countrywide vaccination exercise is being exponentially expanded to include those above 60 years of age and those above 45 years with comorbidities from 1st of March this year. The ministry said the states and UTs have been already informed about this transition. Participating in the program on All India Radio, Director AIMS Dr. Randeep Guleria explained about the process of vaccination at government and private centers.
ये टीकाकरण दोनों जगह लगेगा, सरकारी केंद्र में भी लगेगा और प्राइवेट हॉस्पिटल में भी लगेगा. सरकारी हॉस्पिटल्स में ये मुफ्त लगाया जाएगा. प्राइवेट जो केंद्र है जहाँ पे लगेगा वहाँ पे थोड़ा सा इसके लिए शुल्क लगेगा, लेकिन वो सरकार तय कर रही है कि इसमें बहुत ज्यादा खर्चा ना आए और बहुत महंगा ना हो. जैसे कोविड टेस्टिंग के लिए कैप दिया गया था कि इससे ज्यादा आप चार्ज नहीं कर सकते, उसी तरह से वैक्सीन के लिए भी किया जाएगा.
Dr. Guleria said COVID-19 vaccines are safe and people should not hesitate in getting it administered.
अफवाहों पे ना जाएं, वैक्सीन बिल्कुल सेफ है. आप आगे आके वैक्सीन लगाएं, ये आपको प्रोटेक्ट करेगा. आपके लिए ये एक बहुत बड़ा वेपन है जिससे आप अपने आप को कोविड से बचा सकते हैं. क्योंकि हम ये बिल्कुल विश्वास के साथ कह सकते हैं कि अगर आप टीकाकरण करेंगे तो अगर आपको कोरोना हुआ भी तो आपको बहुत माइल्ड इन्फेक्शन होगी, सीरियस इन्फेक्शन नहीं होगी. हॉस्पिटलाइजेशन, आईसीयू एडमिशन या डेथ से आपकी पूरी तरह से प्रोटेक्शन हो पाएगी.
More than 1 crore 34 lakh doses of COVID-19 vaccine have been administered to the beneficiaries in the country so far. Union Health Ministry said that a total of 8,01,480 doses of vaccines have been given to healthcare and frontline workers in the last 24 hours. Meanwhile, the country's COVID-19 recovery rate stands at 97.17% with recovery of more than 12,179 patients within 24 hours. Presently, the total number of active cases in the country is 1,55,986, which comprises only 1.41% of the total positive cases. A total of 16,577 new cases were reported in the past 24 hours, taking the cumulative positive cases to over 1 crore 10 lakh in the country. The Health Ministry said 120 deaths were reported in the same time period, taking the toll to over 1,56,000 across the country.
Paying glowing tributes to medical professionals for fighting an unknown enemy during the COVID-19 pandemic, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said the Indian health ecosystem is being seen with new high, new respect and new credibility, and called upon the young medical graduates to live up to expectations. Addressing the 33rd convocation of the Tamil Nadu Dr. MGR Medical University through video conferencing today, the Prime Minister said the world will have greater expectations from the graduating students and they should carry the responsibility in their young and strong shoulders.
Tiruvalluvar said, the ailing, the doctor, the medicine and the caregiver. The treatment covers all these four. Throughout the pandemic and in the middle of disruption, each of these four pillars were at the forefront of fighting the war with the unknown enemy. All those who fought the virus emerged as the heroes of humanity. We are transforming the entire medical education and healthcare sector.
The Prime Minister said the COVID-19 pandemic was a completely unexpected occurrence in the world and there was no preset formula to fight the virus. In such a time, India not only made a new path but helped others to walk on it. The death rate in the country was the lowest and the recovery rate was high. India is now producing medicines and vaccines for the world, he said.
The COVID-19 pandemic was a completely unexpected occurrence for the world. In such a time, India has not only made a new path, but also helped others walk with it. India has among the lowest death rates. Recovery rates are high. India is producing medicines for the world and making vaccines for the world. You are graduating at a time when there is a great aspirations and respect for Indian medical professionals, scientists and pharma professionals.
The learning from the COVID-19 pandemic would help the country to fight other diseases like tuberculosis as well, the Prime Minister said. All those who fought the virus have emerged as the heroes of humanity, the Prime Minister said, adding India was transforming the entire medical and healthcare sector, pointing out that 70% of the 21,889 candidates from medical, dental and paramedical disciplines conferred with degrees and diplomas were women candidates. Mr. Modi conveyed his special appreciation to them. Mr. Modi said the success of this institution would have made Dr. MGR very happy. The Prime Minister said the National Medical Commission will bring great transparency and it will also rationalize norms to set up new medical colleges to improve the quality and availability of human resources in this sector. He also called upon medical students to be humorous. He said to be serious and to look serious are two different things and requested the students to keep their sense of humor intact. It will help them cheer up their patients and keep their morale high. Governor and Chancellor of the University Banwari Lal Purohit and Vice Chancellor Sudha Seshayan were also present on the occasion.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will share his thoughts with the people in the country and abroad in the Mann Ki Baat program on All India Radio on Sunday. It will be the 74th episode of the monthly radio program. In a tweet, Mr. Modi has urged people to share inspiring anecdotes for this program. People can share their views in the Namo app or MyGov Open Forum. They can also dial the toll-free number 1-800-117800 and record the message for the Prime Minister in either Hindi or English. People can also give a missed call on 1922 and follow the link received in SMS to directly give their suggestions to the Prime Minister. Some of the recorded messages may become part of the broadcast. The views and suggestions can be given till today. Mann Ki Baat will be broadcast on the entire network of AIR and Doordarshan and also on AIR News website www.newsonair.com and News on AIR mobile app. It will also be streamed live on the YouTube channels of AIR, DD News, PMO and Information and Broadcasting Ministry. AIR will broadcast the program in regional languages immediately after the Hindi broadcast. The regional language versions will be repeated at 8 in the evening. The first of its kind Toy Fair 2021 will be held on virtual platform from 27th of February to 2nd of March. 37 exhibitors from West Bengal are taking part in it. Rohit Nis is one of the exhibitors from Kolkata. Rohit is hopeful that Toy Fair will give him the opportunity to display his products and make children interested in pursuing a hobby.
Over the last decade or so, there's a generation who stopped playing with toys. So my idea was if I can inculcate hobbies into adults, maybe children will see their parents pursuing a hobby and get back to playing with toys rather than a whole generation who is now addicted to mobile phones.
On the other hand, Papaya Mukherjee, Principal cum Assistant Regional Officer of DAV Model School of Durgapur, said that they have been using toys as a pedagogical tool and they will be showcasing this in the fair.
We have been using the toys as a pedagogical tool. We are indeed privileged to get this opportunity to be a part of very, very selected schools who are participating in the first ever virtual toy fair being conducted by Government of India. We have taken very, very traditional Indian toys which were used and their pedagogical values are being used. This is a very important way of creating joyful learning.
You are listening to the Midday News on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. Election Commission to announce poll dates for West Bengal, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Assam and Puducherry Assembly elections at 4:30 p.m. today. Prime Minister says farmers, processing units, MSMEs and startups will be the real drivers of Atmanirbhar Bharat. Preparations underway for next phase of COVID-19 vaccination for citizens over 60 years of age and those above 45 years of age with comorbidities. Prime Minister lauds the role of medical fraternity in fighting the COVID-19 pandemic, says India has provided a helping hand to the global community. Brazil to purchase 20 million doses of Bharat Biotech Covaxin. RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das projects a growth rate of 10.5% for the next financial year. Second anniversary of Bala airstrikes today, Defence Minister says it is a reflection of India's strong will to act against terrorism. Second edition of Khelo India Winter Games inaugurated in Gulmarg virtually by Prime Minister says sports will not only be an extracurricular activity but a part of the curriculum now. And in cricket, India's victory over England in Ahmedabad Test sets up a debate over the role of turning tracks. For quick news updates around the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle at AIR News Alerts.
चलो मिलकर एक शुरुआत करें, चलो एक फैसला आज करें, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे, चलो एक इरादा करते हैं, चलो कुछ वादा करते हैं, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे.
Welcome back to the Midday News. GDP numbers for the third quarter estimates of the current financial year will be released today. Hopes are high that the economy will show a positive reflection in the wake of the trends put forward by international rating agencies and other estimates. Credit rating agency Moody's revised India's growth estimates to 13.7% in the financial year 2021-22 against 10.8% estimated earlier. RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das has reiterated that the central bank has projected the country's growth forecast of 10.5% for the next year. He said the liquidity will continue to be sufficient and the central bank will make available liquidity at the appropriate time. He added that the Apex Bank will see that the borrowing program goes through in a very orderly manner. A report from our Mumbai correspondent.
In its Global Macro Outlook 2021-22, Moody's said India's economy has rebounded quickly from one of the world's longest and most stringent lockdowns. The revised numbers came on the normalization of activity and growing confidence in the market with the rollout of COVID-19 vaccines. Meanwhile, speaking on the liquidity management, RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das said the central bank has several instruments on its table. He said, as and when the time is required, RBI will use various tools to inject liquidity. Mr. Das said, RBI does not want to create an impediment to the process of revival of economic activity. Kunal Shinde, AIR News, Mumbai.
Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has said that the success of the Bala strikes has shown India's strong will to act against terrorism. On the anniversary of the Bala airstrikes, Mr. Singh saluted the exceptional courage and diligence of the Indian Air Force. He said the country is proud of our armed forces who keep India safe and secure. Home Minister Amit Shah also paid homage to the martyrs of the Pulwama attack. Mr. Shah said under the leadership of Narendra Modi, the safety and security of the country and the soldiers is paramount. He said the Indian Air Force had again made clear the policies of New India against terrorism by responding to the Pulwama terror attack. In 2019, during the early hours of the 26th of February, airstrikes were conducted on terrorist training facilities in Balakot of Pakistan's Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. In this operation, a very large number of Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorists, trainers, senior commanders and groups of jihadis who were being trained for Fidaiin action were eliminated. The airstrike was conducted after the terror attack by a Pakistan-based terrorist organization, Jaish-e-Mohammed, on a CRPF convoy in Pulwama on the 14th of February 2019, in which 40 soldiers were martyred.
External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar discussed with his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi the situation along the LAC in eastern Ladakh and also issues related to India-China relations. They had a telephonic conversation yesterday which lasted 75 minutes. Dr. Jaishankar referred to the meeting with Chinese Foreign Minister in September last year in Moscow, where Indian side had expressed its concern on provocative behavior and unilateral attempts of the Chinese side to alter status quo. He noted that the bilateral relations have been impacted severely over last year. Noting the completion of disengagement in Pangong Lake area, the minister emphasized that both sides should now quickly resolve the remaining issues along the LAC in eastern Ladakh. A Chinese Foreign Ministry statement on the two ministers' talk said that the recent disengagement of frontline Chinese and Indian forces in Pangong Lake area has clearly eased the situation on the ground. The statement also said that both sides have agreed to establish a hotline for better communication and to exchange opinions in a timely manner. Global Terror Financing Watchdog FATF has decided to keep Pakistan on its grey list till June this year, saying Pakistan is yet to complete its action plan to remove blocks in its fight against money laundering and terror financing. FATF said Islamabad should demonstrate effective implementation of targeted financial sanctions against all designated terrorists and their associates. FATF also said that Pakistan courts must give effective, decisive and proportionate punishment to those involved in terrorism. It also said Pakistan must have an effective system to deal with terror financing. Once Pakistan completes 3 unfulfilled tasks, the FATF will verify and take decision on Islamabad's present status in June plenary.
In Madhya Pradesh, COVID positivity rate increased to 2.3% yesterday. The number of active corona cases in the state is 2,435. More from our Bhopal correspondent.
In Madhya Pradesh, 368 new cases of corona have cropped up in the state. 201 patients have recovered from infection. 138 new cases have come up in Indore and 70 in Bhopal. With 2 patients succumbing to the infection, the death toll increased to 3,859. Meanwhile, Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan on Thursday urged residents of the state to avoid travelling to Maharashtra due to surge in COVID-19 cases in the past 1 week. Pooja P. Vardhan, AIR News, Bhopal.
In the Union Territory of Puducherry, a high-level committee has been constituted under the chairmanship of the Lieutenant Governor, Dr. Tamilisai Soundararajan, to monitor and boost the COVID-19 vaccination activities. More from our Puducherry correspondent.
This committee will assess the implementation process of the COVID-19 vaccination and adopt strategies to increase the count, since the first phase failing to get the desired results. The second phase will begin from March 1st, 2021. According to the COVID-19 status report today, 9,864 persons were vaccinated so far, which includes 9,380 healthcare workers and 484 frontline workers. A total recovery rate in the UT stands at 97.83% and the mortality rate is 1.68%. Chandramohan, AIR News, Puducherry.
The Health Ministry of Brazil yesterday signed a contract to purchase 20 million doses of Covaxin vaccine made by India's Bharat Biotech. The ministry said the first 8 million doses are expected to arrive in March. Meanwhile, Brazil reported 1,541 new COVID-19 deaths yesterday, taking the total fatalities to 251,498. With 65,998 new cases, the South American country has now registered 10,390,461 cases.
The News Services Division of All India Radio in its bilingual live phone-in program tonight will bring you a special discussion program on COVID-19. Dr. Geeta Kampani, senior physician from Safdarjung Hospital, will participate in the discussion. Listeners can ask questions to the expert on toll-free telephone number 1-800-11-5767. I repeat, 1-800-11-5767. You can also ask questions on telephone number 011-2331-4444. I repeat, 011-2331-4444, and post queries on a Twitter handle at AIR News Alerts by hashtag AskAIR. This can be heard on FM Gold channel and additional frequencies from 9:30 p.m. onwards. This program will also be available on the website newsonair.com and on a YouTube channel, News on AIR Official. You can also follow us on the News on AIR app for updates. Union Information and Broadcasting Minister Prakash Javadekar has said that the new guidelines for social media intermediaries, OTT platforms and digital media will bring uniformity among all in the field of media. Speaking about the intermediary guidelines and digital media ethics code notified by the government yesterday, Mr. Javadekar said this will empower the users and will for the first time ensure grievance redressal mechanism for them. The minister asserted that the new guidelines, which have been welcomed by the world community, is based on the principle of responsible freedom. The government had yesterday notified the new guidelines based on the principle of soft touch self-regulation mechanism for digital media, social media intermediaries and OTT platforms in the country. The guidelines will ensure responsible and responsive social media intermediaries, whereas it envisages a three-tier self-regulatory mechanism for the digital media.
India's victory over England in Ahmedabad's test has set up a hot debate over the role of turning tracks among cricketers. The first test at the new Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad will be remembered as the shortest one ever played in India. This day-night test, the first-class match played at the ground since 2013, will also be remembered as the shortest completed test globally since 1935. More than the players, the performance of the pitch is being discussed big time in cricket circles, while the purists labelled it as poor. Indian skipper Virat Kohli called it very good and instead blamed the batsmen in both teams for coming up with an under-par performance against good spin bowling. He said it was a very good pitch to bat on, especially in the first innings, and it felt like the ball was coming on nicely with the odd ball turning. Akshat Patel and R. Ashwin hounded England for a second successive day to help India take a pivotal 2-1 series lead in the 4-test series. The defeat eliminated England from the race for the second finalist spot in the World Test Championship to be played in June. Australia has passed a law, the first of its kind in the world, aimed at making Google and Facebook pay for news content on their platforms. The legislation had been fiercely opposed by the US tech giants, with Facebook blocking all news content to Australians over the row. Facebook agreed to reverse its decision after robust negotiations with the government, which led to changes to the law to address some of their concerns. The law is seen as a test case for similar regulation around the world. Facebook and Google had earlier argued that the law fundamentally misunderstood how the internet works.
Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal today said that national education policy has given focus to innovation, entrepreneurship and skill development. Addressing the FICCI Higher Education Summit, Mr. Goyal said the policy will make India the knowledge capital of the world. He said the national education policy allows students to be more creative in their chosen fields.
The Prime Minister Narendra Modi has stressed the fact that sports has been given pride of place in the recent national education policy. Sports, which was considered an extracurricular activity earlier, is now being treated as part of the curriculum, and grading in sports will be counted in education of the children. The 5-day event is being organized at the world-famous ski resort Gulmarg in the North Kashmir's Baramulla district of Jammu and Kashmir. He remarked that the number of players participating in this Winter Games from various states have doubled, which demonstrates the increasing enthusiasm towards Winter Games. Now let us take a look at the weather update for the day. National capital Delhi witnessed mist in the morning. Minimum temperature was around 15 degrees. Maximum will be around 34 degrees. Jammu is having thunderstorm with rain. Minimum temperature was around 16 degrees Celsius, while maximum will be around 27. Srinagar is witnessing cloudy sky with moderate rain. Leh is seeing cloudy sky. Gilgit is witnessing generally cloudy sky with light rain, and Muzaffarabad is having generally cloudy sky with moderate rain. Now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. Election Commission to announce poll dates for West Bengal, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Assam and Puducherry Assembly elections at 4:30 p.m. today. Prime Minister says farmers, processing units, MSMEs and startups will be the real drivers of Atmanirbhar Bharat. Preparations underway for next phase of COVID-19 vaccination for citizens over 60 years of age and those above 45 years of age with comorbidities. Prime Minister lauds the role of medical fraternity in fighting COVID-19 pandemic, says India has provided a helping hand to the global community. Brazil to purchase 20 million doses of Bharat Biotech Covaxin. RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das projects a growth rate of 10.5% for next financial year. Second anniversary of Bala Court airstrikes today. Defence Minister says it is a reflection of India's strong will to act against terrorism. And with that, we end the midday news.